Iranian. So we're bringing in Jamil Jaffer, who's the founder and executive director of the National Security Institute at George Mason, to talk some more about this. And it's like everything else going on, like whatever stories are coming up today, it's the tariffs, you know, the Nancy Guthrie story. It's almost like we might be in a big situation here with Iran, and it might happen relatively soon. What do you actually expect the president to do, Jamil, from what you've been seeing in the reports and hearing in his comments?
Well, Connell, it's a great question. You know, we really don't know. The president has sent, as you pointed out earlier, a tremendous number of assets to the region. You've got those two aircraft carriers you talked about, the USS Abraham Lincoln, the USS Gerald Ford. You've seen that flow of airplanes that you showed us, the tankers, the bombers, the F-35s, the F-22s. So we've got a huge amount of assets in the region. It's clear what the president's teeing up for if he takes military action would be something like an airstrike or the like. The problem, or a series of airstrikes, or days of airstrikes even. The problem, of course, is the president is also simultaneously negotiating with the Iranians. He's given them 10 days now, potentially, although we know that that necessarily doesn't always mean that he's going to wait that long. But he's given them time, and they've been trying to do a deal here. The question is, what does a deal like that look like? Will the Iranians do something more than just give up their nuclear program? Will they give up uranium enrichment? Will they be willing to stop funding terrorist groups? Will they stop messing around the region? There's all sorts of bad things. And then, of course, their own people and the oppression of their own people. So it would take a major change in what the regime is doing to get the president off of this thing. But we'll see. He doesn't want a big war in the Middle East, but he may undertake airstrikes.
To your point on uranium enrichment, the New York Times headline we'll put up says Iran is saying, at least, that the U.S. has not asked it to stop enriching uranium. As you see there, the United States did not ask Iran to stop enriching uranium in talks over a nuclear deal held in Switzerland last week. They're citing the Iranian foreign minister, so that contradicts the public position of Washington. Do you believe it?
Well, look, if that's true, that's a catastrophic mistake. One of the biggest problems with the Obama nuclear deal from the outset was that he had allowed them to have domestic enrichment of uranium, something the U.S. has never acceded to before that agreement. And so President Trump, if he's going to do a deal better than the Iran nuclear deal that President Obama did, and remember, he came into office saying that was a terrible deal. He wouldn't do another deal like that. In fact, he got rid of that deal after 6 months. So if he does a deal where enrichment is allowed, that's a huge problem. He's going to have to get concessions on ballistic missiles, on terrorism support, and on the freedom of the Iranian people. If he's going to do that, it's hard to imagine the regime giving all that up.
When we have these conversations about, oh, the president, as I mentioned in the last section there, Mike, you start with something limited and then go in harder after that. I mean, this idea that you send a message, does that give you an idea of how Iran is thinking or how we think they might be thinking? In the Wall Street Journal, there was an article about Iran getting ready for war with the U.S., and it does say that Iran's leaders are preparing for an attack that could disrupt its chain of command. Because there's been some reporting, might go after some of the individuals at the top. The Revolutionary Guard earlier this month announcing plans to revive its so-called Mosaic defense strategy, which gives commanders the autonomy to issue orders to their units. So what would you say about Iran's side of this and what they think is coming, how ready they are for it?
Well, look, the Iranians can prepare for war all they want. If it really comes down to a full-on shooting war with the United States, that is a war that Iran cannot win. They couldn't have won it if they were at full strength, and they're now at significantly reduced strength because of the attacks that the Israelis have made on their air defense system. So it would be very hard for Iran to fight a force-on-force war with the United States, whether in the air or on the ground or both. It's just not a war they win, but it's also a war the president doesn't want. And so the real question is what's going to happen short of war. You can see a series of airstrikes. You can see taking out of the leadership decapitation strategy. We'll see how that plays out, Connell.
Yeah, we will. I mean, you know, I could see a situation where the airstrikes start, but then if you're going to go further than that, much further than that, if indeed this is looking like, you know, Iraq 03 as the buildup suggests it is, I mean, shouldn't the president make his case, you know, and articulate his case in some sort of a big speech? Or, you know, that's why I hinted at it a moment ago. It almost feels like if that's where we're headed, it's sneaking up on people, because we really haven't heard that from this president. We hear a lot of, you know, short snippets, but articulating the actual case for war, what might that sound like? And do you think he should make it if he's going to do it?
Well, if he's going to do it, Connell, he certainly should make the case for it. The problem, of course, is that the forces that we put into the region right now are not really ground forces, right? If you remember during the Iraq War, we had a huge contingent of ground force there in Saudi Arabia and the like. These are largely forces that would be involved in airstrikes, cruise missile strikes, and the like, sort of war from a distance, drones and the like. Now, if the president did want to engage in a ground invasion of Iran, and it's hard to believe that he would. He came into office saying he was going to end all wars. It's hard to believe he would go in and invade Iran. It may come to that eventually, but it doesn't feel like we're there now, Connell.
You think it'll work if the work means, like, the Ayatollah's out, that there's regime change in Iran? And what happens if it doesn't?
Well, this is part of the challenge. The president told the protesters that help was on the way weeks ago. Help has not yet shown up, as far as we know, unless the U.S. is supplying funds and weapons to the opposition covertly, which we have not seen any evidence of. And so, as a result, the support's taken a while to get there. They may not be able to overthrow the supreme leader at this point. And so, maybe if you took him out through decapitation, then who knows what you're going to get in Venezuela. It looks like we've done pretty well for ourselves with Delcy Rodriguez. We'll see how that plays out. Not clear you get the same outcome in a country like Iran.
Jamil, Jaffer, thank you as always. Watching this very, very closely in the days ahead, and still ahead, a story we've been watching for many, many days, and we're still watching it.